Ladies and gentlemen, after a decade of war, Napoleon, fini! May I propose a pledge to the future? Stability, stability, the world's been made free for people like you and people like me. Stability, stability, the upstart will pay. Who stands in the way of stability? Never again shall bloodstains be regal. We shall be firm where once we were slack. As of today, all dissent is illegal. Now only the echo may safely talk back. Here, stability, stability. The world's been made free for people like you, people like me. Stability, stability. The secret police will guarantee peace and stability. Will guarantee peace and stability.
Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Green Room, the weekly Facebook discussion of all things theater. Stability, that's what we're all looking for right now, I guess. That song was from the cast recording of Rothschild and Sons, the revised version of the Broadway musical The Rothschilds, a show that's very near and dear to my heart. And one of my very special guests today was featured on that recording. I have three old friends waiting in the virtual green room to join us for today's brunch time discussion. And the first is one of the gentlemen that was on that cut from the album, a very charming actor and singer and sometimes artistic director. I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with him and also enjoying his company off stage. Please welcome Jonathan Hadley.
Hi.
Hello. I realized we didn't hear too much of you on that, but
that was plenty. That was a gracious plenty and a huge surprise.
Was it? Well, I think I have some more surprises for you. Yes, fixing your coif.
Always, right. What do we look like?
Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting us into your abode.
Yes, my little apartment in Greenwich Village. Yes, where I've been holed up, like we all have for the last few months. But I got to paint things. I got to work on the ceiling, but I did a lot of work this time. It was good. It was very good.
Good. Well, we have as our second guest, one of your neighbors. He's a surprise guest because Josh Lehman, who is scheduled to be on today's broadcast, is having internet issues where he is. And the internet is our only way of communicating on Beyond the Green Room. So he's promised to be on the show in the coming weeks. But another old friend of mine very graciously stepped in at the last moment. And I know he's a neighbor of yours. He's had a long and varied career in the world of theater. Please welcome Mark Herko.
Hey there.
Hi. Hi, neighbor. How are you?
Great. I'm actually in New Jersey today, checking in my mother's house. So I'm broadcasting not from Greenwich Village. I'm broadcasting from Englewood, New Jersey, but I'll be back tomorrow.
Oh, good. We have to get together. This is great.
Absolutely.
You're a globetrotter. You've gone all the way out to New Jersey.
That's right. It's about as far as I go these days.
Well, my final guest today has just relocated to her New York apartment, and she's also an old friend and has a lot to share with us about her work on Broadway and in nightclubs and in film. And I don't know if you guys know each other, but I did see in the private chat that Jonathan and she are already getting to know each other.
Oh, you weren't supposed to see that.
Yes, but you see, that's for the viewers out there. We have a little private chat on the side where we can check up on each other. So, without further ado, please welcome the very talented and very glamorous Haley Swindal.
Hi guys. Hi. How are you? How's everybody doing?
Good.
It's my first time broadcasting back from my New York apartment. So I was like trying to figure out the angle. I was in Florida for 5 months.
Wow.
On a farm. So I'm
Wow.
so happy to be back in New York City. I can't even tell you. But
Did you have to quarantine when you were back?
I did. I quarantined for 2 weeks, and I've been back about 5 weeks now. So 3 weeks in the world. So
What part of the city
great.
are you in?
I'm in Sutton Place. I'm on all the way east.
Oh, nice.
Totally, right directly over the FDR. So
Wow.
it's great. It's quiet. It's great, and I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be out of Florida.
Well, we're happy to have you back. So what we do every week, if you've not seen one of these Beyond the Green Room shows, is in my own egotistical way, I want to play a little game called the 6 Degrees of David Edwards. So I'm going to, so that we all get to know each other. I would like to know what your memory is of how we first met. So why don't I start with you, Haley, because I think that'll be an easy answer.
Okay.
And it's the same one. We know the truth.
So I was cast opposite David, and I was about 24 years old. I was super intimidated. I was doing an Irving Berlin review, and here comes this man with this magnificent voice. I had done about 4 professional shows, but I was always 23 going on 63. I mean, I think I'm the youngest Mama Morton in history. I mean, I don't play my own age. So here I am playing a 45-year-old woman at 24 and trying to like not really give my cards away that I have no experience. And here comes this magnificent man with this voice and this acting, and I'm, trying to hide the fact that I have literally no experience. And he was so amazing to me and so kind.
Is there any surprise why I asked her to go first? And since we were playing opposite one another, I was 27 around then too?
You were 27. Yeah. I think you might be 20. You were 29, I think. You were going on 30.
You two are so sweet to each other.
You were a little bit older. But
I should tell the guests that the very next time that we worked together, you played my daughter. So
but you wrote it. It was in your
Yes. Tony and I wrote the script for the show, and we wrote the role especially for Haley. And we also wanted her to play something that was actually her own age for a hot second,
which was very rare for me. And first and only time I ever did. So
your career has just taken off since then, and I'm so glad you joined us today. So, all right, now, Mark, what is your recollection of when we first met?
Wow. I would have to say that was in the 80s because I was working as the Associate Artistic Director at Musical Theater Works, a theater company that your cousin was he was the chairman of the board. Jack Finn.
Yes.
And you used to audition for us. I don't think I ever cast you at that time, but later on in life.
Get out of here.
Don't admit that.
I had the pleasure of working with you at Seaside Music Theater, where we did Merry Widow.
That's right.
And you did the lead. And it was a phenomenal production. You were great. It was one of the most elaborate things I ever staged. I think we had a cast of 34 people, and there were 33 people in the orchestra. I mean, they really pulled out the stops for this, and it was great. So that's really where I got to know you.
And am I correct in this that the translation that we used was partially your?
I wrote the book.
Because
I did rewrite the book. I set it back. I set it in 1914, just prior to World War I. So it was updated a little slightly, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a wonderful production. And I do remember the first day of rehearsal because we had all the other leads were opera singers. And I was expecting, from knowing you as a director, that we would sit down and read the play. And instead, we all stood behind music stands, and all these singers were saying things. Maestro at bar 54, is that an E flat or a D? And I thought, oh boy, am I in trouble? because here I was the leading man, and I learned it from 3 recordings, one which is in German and the other was in English. And one had a tenor who was fudging the low notes, and the other had a baritone who couldn't hit the high notes. And we were doing a different translation. So I was doing the best I could to just learn the darn thing. And I thought, well, aren't we going to approach this as a play? And when we got into rehearsal with you, we did, and I was very grateful for that. So, but it was I was a little scared at that point.
No, you were wonderful.
It was great fun. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more soon. But I want to bring in your neighbor, Jonathan Hadley, who. How did we first meet, Jonathan?
Well, I have to say, sorry if this is I have visual aids, so sorry if that's kind of cheesy. But during pandemic COVID time, what do? We've all been cleaning. So I've been going through all our stuff. Like, what do you do with all these years of playbills and programs? So anyway, when you asked me to do this, I went back and found my stack. I believe, David, this is how we know each other. Is that right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
This was an off-Broadway musical. It was terrible, but we were good. And I was looking; I couldn't find a year.
You were good. I wasn't in it. I was your understudy and the understudy for. I was the standby for 2 guys, and you and I've forgotten his name, but
me too. Oh, I can find it. But he was a drag queen.
Yeah, well, he was a big football player of a guy, and the role that he was playing was the devil who comes back to Earth as a big drag queen. And I don't know. And he was all I remember is that he had these fabulous costumes. Yeah, like one that was like a wedding cake that appeared out of nowhere.
Wedding cake. Oh God, I forgot about it.
And the running gag was that he would sit there and eat Peeps, those marshmallow candies,
right?
And bite the heads off them, and to be the evil devil. And I got to tell you, that's the one candy in the world that if it was the only candy in the world, I would never eat candy. I can't stand Peeps. But I rehearsed for your role and for his role, and I was supposed to do his matinees because it was a monster of a role. I never went on. The show closed before.
Show closed, and we were right near you, Mark. We were at the Players Theater on McDougal.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I was trying to find a year, but all I can find is "Kiss of the Spider Woman" was on. That's how it was. So that's
okay.
When that was.
Yeah.
But then I found then our paths didn't cross for a while until this. We just did this together.
That's right.
39 Steps. Last summer. Was it last summer?
2 summers ago. At Surflight, right? Because I did it at Ivoryton the year before. And Mark, you've done a lot of work at Surflight over the years. Never when Haley and I were there, but
when you worked at Haley. Oh, okay.
I think
wow.
Mark's work there predates our time there.
Yeah, like 7 seasons I did.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, Haley did quite a few shows there. How many seasons were you there?
3 or 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did it when the signers were there, and then when Roy was there. So, and then like 3 or 4. A show like every season. I wasn't ever there a whole season, but probably 4 seasons, I think.
Great place. I was only there 3 weeks and had a great time. It's
fun,
right? And they're back up and running this summer.
Well, they are. They've had to go. Yeah, they've had to go in a tent across the street and go completely non-union again. But they had to do it to survive, and they are the little theater that could. They keep reinventing themselves. I started there as a director, and then Steve, this was shortly after Steve took over, and then he said to me, well, since you're going to be here directing during the day, why don't you be in the show at night? So my first show there was Camelot as King Arthur at night, while I was directing, I think, a Neil Simon play during the day.
Oh, that's great.
What I remember from working at Surflight is that you never really get a day off, because if you're doing one show, at night, and the other whatever. But it's like summer camp, but you're a block away from the beach, and some wonderfully talented people there, and it's like boot camp. It really is. I remember doing 3 plays in 4 weeks in the fall season once.
Wow.
And by the time I got to the 3rd play, and I had leads in all of them, I thought, oh, I can never do this again. And when I think of the kids who were the non-equity apprentices who did this throughout the summer, I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, talk about paying dues.
Well, they just fill them full of ice cream. There's that ice cream shop right there. Just keep going. More ice cream. Keep going.
And the chicken and the egg. You guys remember the chicken and the egg?
Oh, I was thinking of that this morning. Yes.
Actually, last year I directed a Baskerville there, which is the Ken Ludwig version of Hound of the Baskervilles, with 4 people or 5 people in it. It was 5 people. And not only was I directing it, but I was in it, which was an insane thing to do. And we had a week of rehearsals, and we had no budget, as we often don't at Surflight. And I decided at the end of the, before we went into rehearsal, the only thing to do was to embrace this and not apologize for the fact that we had not tons of scenery and all of this. So I made 2 of the characters be last minute replacements, one being a waitress at the chicken or the egg, and the other being the production stage manager. So they had T-shirts that said Surflight and Chegg on them, and so
that's funny.
Well,
amazing.
It was, and we got away with it. I was the director, and I said, well, I'm filling in for this role because I don't know, I don't remember what I did, but we had to embrace that. And so Mark, when you were there, it was it 1 week stock like that, or?
Yeah, I would say for the first 5 seasons, it was 1 week stock. So I did West Side Story in 6 rehearsals. I did The Mystery of Edwin Drood in, I would want to say, 3 rehearsals, because we started out with a musical director who could not play the piano, and the cast was going absolutely crazy. So we started the first rehearsal on, I think it was Wednesday, and I was able to get a replacement Saturday afternoon, and we opened on Tuesday. It was crazy. It was
the crazy stuff we do. That's a great story. Oh my God.
But those are all 1 week stock at that time. It was just insane.
And you guys, you and Jonathan have worked together, correct?
We've done a couple of workshops.
Yes. Back at the theater, when you were running the theater, right?
Actually, the first one we did had nothing to do with musical theater works. That was A Nervous Splendor.
Yes, which I always thought was a nervous blender. It's a nervous splendor. Anyway, it's a story about not Young.
Yeah, it's Vienna in 1900, and it was based on a book. But we did that on Theater Row, I believe, and then the second time we worked together was in Connecticut. We did a workshop production of Midsummer Nights. You played Puck.
Oh, I was good in that.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
You were great.
That's the one. That's the one I was good in.
Yeah, you were good in the other one too.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, that was right. Of course. Yeah.
Well, you were terrific in 39 Steps too. Justin. I have to tell you,
I love that show.
Yeah, you should do this. We should all do it.
I'd love to do
You'd
that.
be great in that, Haley. It's a great role for you.
The thing is, I know that there's a certain skill to doing like the kind of thing that I did, where you play all those, but it got to me that it was about changing scenery and changing hats, and I've ended up doing a lot of that because I can, but I can't say that I enjoy it the same way as having a through line on a role. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't care how small the role is, just so long as I have an emotional journey. when I do something like that, I feel like I'm just exhausted at the end of the night and got nothing to show for it, you know.
Well, you had Forbidden Broadway crowd on last night, and I did that for years. That was my day job, which was kind of fun because they send you off to one night in Pittsburgh or a week in Tulsa, you know, and there's you just run up and on the plane, you're like, well, who knows what number, and let's put the show together, you know what I mean? So there's none of that as far as a through line goes. It's fun, but it's what you're saying, David. It's hard. It's hard.
It's like pushing a rock uphill. I mean, you know, Jonathan, I look at your career and I say, my gosh, he's done Shakespeare and Shaw and things like the 39 Steps and real book musicals like Rothschild and Sons. And you did Cooney Lemel off Broadway too.
I can't believe you mentioned that. Why I found that.
We're in sync. All right. Well, all right. I'm going to one up you because
you were in that, right?
I was one of the kids late in the run, and then I did the tour. The Rothschilds, for those viewers who don't know, it was the last musical that Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick wrote together. And it suffered in comparison to Fiddler in that, even though it was a very different animal, it was also about a Jewish family that had 5 children. So it's kind of like whatever you follow up with a mega hit like Fiddler, it's going to be judged in another way. And it was a very lavish, a beautiful show, beautifully written, and but didn't get revived very much. And Jonathan was involved with a rewritten version that's sort of a chamber musical that now is being done all over, called Rothschild and Sons.
Right. We were at the York ran there, and then it went to London and did Bob Cuccioli and Glory Crampton played the leads in both places. Yeah, and you did?
I saw the one at the York. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I was back there somewhere singing away.
Oh, I loved it. It was great.
Didn't they do a revival also at Circle in the Square downtown?
Yes, Lonnie Price directed back in the day.
Right. And Bob Cuccioli was in that one. I think he played one of the sons.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, he played Nathan in that. And I have to say that I went in and auditioned for the same part, and Bob got it. And then when they were replacing somebody else, they brought me in again, and I didn't get it. And then a third time, and finally my agent said, just either call him or forget it. And so the show closed after that, and that's been the history of my life. So yeah, but Bob graduated to playing the lead, Meyer, in this last one, and I imagine he was wonderful. You worked with him, Haley, haven't you? And 9. Yeah, did you do 9?
Card. That's what I got my equity card. Where I was on Broadway, all of that. I got my equity card, and then I did a production. I did a summer at PCLO with him. I love Bob.
Oh, what'd you get your equity card? What show was that?
9. I was a German at the spa from the left. I called myself Heidi von Krum. It was Glory Crampton and Bob Cuccioli, Dana Moore. It was a great group. I loved it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
I loved it so much. At Westchester. I was about 12 years ago. I was right out of school. I absolutely loved it. I loved working with him. And then later through the summer, we tracked through PCLO the next summer, and he directed me in Jekyll and Hyde and
sure,
Jesus Christ Superstar with him and Sound of Music. So I've worked with him a ton. I love Bob.
Well, we'll have to convince him to get on this show.
He'll do it.
We'd have an awful lot of things to talk about.
Well, speaking of him, I did off-Broadway last fall, production of Caesar and Cleopatra, the Shaw play done by the Gingold Group, and he played Caesar. He was wonderful, and they're getting us together at the end of this month to do a reading of it for the Actors Fund, a benefit through the Seth Rudetsky Stars in the House thing. So I'm going to get to see him. I thought you said hello.
I actually worked with him on a musical about Christopher Columbus that was written by these crazy Italian guys. Mario Fratti wrote the book, and we did it in Schenectady. It was,
of course,
it was god awful. But he was so funny because it was very operatic, and I can't remember who he was playing opposite, but you're watching the video and they're just about ready to burst out laughing. It was so bad, but and he kept it. I mean, he did a good job, but it was a lot of fun.
I have a feeling that I almost did that one as well, because that had several incarnations, and Worth Gardner, a director I worked with quite a few times, called me up about doing it once, and so did Don Price, who was involved. So there must have been several different directors who got hold of this, and all either said, I can't do anything with this. But
they were going to do a European tour, and apparently
that's what I remember. And I was afraid to do it because I had some equity work, and as always, when you work outside of the country, you don't have equity jurisdiction, and you don't know what you're getting into, and so I guess I dodged a bullet from what you have said.
The producers were two gynecologists, and they were a little shady. It was strange. It was very strange.
Oh my God.
Well, I remember the Mario Frati connection there too, and so that rang a bell immediately.
Some Italian guy by the name of Giuseppe, who fell in love with Sarah Rice, I remember, and who was in the original production of Sweeney Todd, and but he didn't have a role for her, so he created a role so she could go to Schenectady with us.
There's so many gynecological jokes, but this is a G-rated show, right? I'm just gonna not even go there.
Well, I was going to say something about being back in the saddle, but that I think all right, okay. I've already been scolded for having my toe on the line here, but I don't know where we fit in terms of censorship here on Facebook. But I think we didn't say anything really on toe.
Not too bad. No, not too bad. No. Well, if I may bring, I don't know where I don't mean to usurp, but you brought up the Rothschilds, which reminded me, because of my little collection here, we got to work with a fantastic actor and a celebrity in mutually, Theodore Bickel. Wasn't he in that Rothschilds? Or
he did the tour.
Okay.
And I'm glad you brought him up, because he's going to figure in our conversation a little while longer. But yeah, we recently did a well, maybe not so recently, it's a couple of years now, the Folksbiene, the National Yiddish Folksbiene. Am I saying that right, Jonathan?
Folksbiene, yeah.
Did a retrospective of their 100 years of being in existence, and we did a lovely evening at 54 Below. And as part of the evening, Jonathan and I were honored to be in the section that was a tribute to Theodore Bickel, because he did so much work with him.
Yes, of course we did. Yes.
Yeah, you did Fiddler on the Roof section.
Oh, look what I found today. Literally clean it. But yeah, that's how we know each other. Yeah. So I did a lot of tours of that with Theo, which was great. And if you don't mind, can I pull one other picture out?
Absolutely. That's what you're on the show for. We want to see your pictures.
Oh, well, it's, great. This is all great. But here I played Perchik, and he called me Pupik, which means chicken butt in Yiddish. And he loved calling me Pupik. Pupik, come on, Pupik, you said the line wrong. Pupik. And here's a picture of my lovely huddle. We were on the road. Do you guys recognize who that is? There she is. It's Rachel Bay Jones.
Oh, of course. Yes. She's brunette there.
Yes, who was just Rachel Jones then, and that's me, bearded and all that. Yes, so we toured for over a year with Theo, Rachel, and I, and it was a wonderful cast. We were his oldest children ever. Don't tell anybody that. But it was great fun. What a lovely man. It was an educational experience.
Did you see?
I'm sorry, Haley?
I just wanted to know if you saw the new Yiddish production, how amazing it was downtown.
Beautiful, yes.
Yeah, Jamie Beth Margolis, who cast it, was on the show 2 weeks ago, and she got us tickets for opening night. I did not know what to expect. I thought, oh gosh, another fiddler, and where we don't understand a word. And it was one of the most vital, heartfelt, and just back to basics production that I've ever witnessed. It was very moving. So
my best friend and producing partner on other projects, I didn't produce this, is Jana Robbins, and she was responsible with Hal Luftig for bringing it from the Folks Bean to off-Broadway. And so I was kind of along for the journey, just as the one witnessing her do it. And it was an incredible, Joel Gray's work on that was
just wonderful.
Incredible. Well, you've done a lot of work with Jana, both on stage and off. She wants to come on our show, and I hope maybe you can twist her arm. Some days are difficult for her because it's a day that she spends with her mother. But I'm hoping that she'll clear some time for us soon. But
she takes full-time care of her 98-year-old mother. She's incredible.
Yes,
so
but you did. Tell us what you did, a Candor and Ebb show with her.
I did. Yeah. Well, we were cast in a show called This One's for the Girls off-Broadway. I had just had a baby. I was also producing. She also was taking care of her mom. She was producing. So it was perfect because it was like 2 shows a week. And we both got cast. We were able to, and I was like, wait, you act and you produce too? And so I just instantly started asking her questions and, kept asking her questions. I probably drove her nuts, but she was really nice. And we became really, really close friends. And I said, about 2 months in, we were kind of super, super close. And I was like, we should do the rink. We should do the rink together. Oh. We both had this brassy corresponding vulnerability and brassiness to us that other people were starting to see. And she said, well, I don't really know about the rink, but let's do a Candor and Ebb show, and let's do it at 54 Below, because we both had kind of had these also cabaret careers. She sells out her shows at 54 Below. I'd been selling out my shows. So we just started a duos series at 54. So we did one, and we sold it out, and they kept asking us back. I think we did it 6 or 7 times, and we did it up at the Sharon Playhouse as well. We were supposed to do it at the Tillis Center when when everything happened, and we've been rebooked. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it in the spring or the summer of next year. But we just keep, and we're working on a lot of producing projects together now. So it's wonderful. She's amazing, and I love working and learning from her, and she's wonderful.
You did one that was worked on in London recently, wasn't it? Yeah. Timothy Cratchit, was it?
2 projects in London. There's a show called The Jazz Age that Jana had been on. I've always been in love with the story as well of I'm a history nerd. Zelda Fitzgerald,
yes,
Hemingway,
history nerd.
And it's the story of the 3 of them. It's kind of a love letter to the 3 of them, and also this menage a trois of there was always this unsaid chemistry between Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and it just kind of explores that as well, which is intriguing and fascinating and dangerous and sexy. And sorry, Facebook, if I'm talking, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here. It's an amazing story, and we did it at the Playground Theatre in London, and Jana actually ended up directing it, and I came over and kind of took over as well, and I did a lot of the producing stuff, and it did great. And it was just a developmental production, and then later in the year we have 2 other producing partners on that, Craig Hafner and Sherry Wright, who work with Hal Luftig a lot, and then another show called The Astonishing Times of Timothy Cratchit, which was done at the Hope Mill Theatre along with a British producer named Katie Lifson, which had its British debut. Both shows were written by Alan Nee, who's a genius, and Andre Cotrini was the composer of Astonishing Times of Timothy Cratchit, which basically tells the story of what happens to Tiny Tim when he grows up, becomes a man. And it's a really beautiful story, and we're figuring out kind of next steps with that. But that was the developmental kind of first production of that, and we have some exciting developments for what's coming for both projects. So,
well, maybe you can use an aging Scrooge once in a while.
You would be pretty genius.
I have played Scrooge at Westchester Broadway Theatre about 5 times.
I know that. I forgot that though.
2 times a version that was pretty straightforward. Once that was a country and western version. Don't ask me. I mean, every incarnation you can imagine of Scrooge, they seem to call me, and I'm very grateful to do it. But yeah, Westchester Broadway Theater, you've done a lot of work out there, and so have I. I think I've directed 3 shows out there and been in, I don't know, about 8 maybe.
They love you there. I know Lisa adores you there.
Well, we're hoping they rise like a phoenix again too, because again, we talked about Surflight. I think Surflight is the only place where I've directed maybe 8 shows and been in about 30 of them.
Wow.
But that's very deceptive, because as Mark described, that could have been in a 6-week period.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Haley, right before the Broadway shutdown, was appearing quite often in Chicago on Broadway. And I never got to see it. So I hope you go back when Broadway reopens and I finally get to see you play Mama Morton.
I'm in and out a lot. That's the show. They do a lot of short contracts there, but they're also very loyal. It's great. I mean, I do 4 weeks there and they call me in, and then they'll bring in whoever. They bring in X star, Y star, and there's kind of 2 or 3 of us, that they kind of call, and we do it. I love it. I love it because I'm able to go to London with Jana and then go do Jazz Age and produce that and come back and play Mama. I did it for a year, and I did over 100 shows. So I did a significant amount of shows in the year, and I think they like me, and I think I'll be back. I started on a 2-week contract and ended up doing 100 shows. So that's how they start kind of everybody.
And then you never get bored because you're never there long enough.
Oh my God. And it was like starting the show. It was like, I rehearsed with the Velma, but everybody else, it was like, I don't know how it was like for you guys on Broadway, and it probably depends on every show. But for me, it was like, lights out. Like that was literally meeting Roxy was with an audience. I mean,
terrifying.
The first time as a principal, because it had been running for so long, I didn't get a put in. I was Mama. Like, I don't have to dance. Boom, lights on, boom.
Yes.
I thought that only happened off Broadway, but I guess it happens on Broadway now.
Oh, I've been through that. It's terrible.
Was by slapping her butt on the line, and I was like, I'm so sorry. It's like, hi, I'm Haley, because that's the line is whatever I say to her, and I slap her butt and I leave the stage. It's like, so nice to meet you. I'm sorry we had to meet that way.
Well, I do want to, I wanted to, before I forget, Mark was one of the original framers of Musical Theater Works, which was now we have lots of companies that nurture new musicals, but you were really the pioneers in doing that.
Yeah, because we were the first theater company that only worked on developing new musicals. I mean, Goodspeed Opera had done some new musicals. I actually wrote my doctoral dissertation on the Goodspeed Opera House, so I know the history backwards and forwards. But they kind of fell into it by accident. Because it started out as a summer stock theater company, and in their second year, they hired an artistic director by the name of Albert Marr, who decided he only wanted to do these 3 shows in 8 weeks, and the first one was Man of La Mancha, and that's how they started that reputation. But mostly what Goodspeed did was revivals and reworked revivals of old musicals. But with Musical Theater Works, I mean, we didn't do revivals. We just worked with brand new material, and we had a development program of where we put things through informal readings, staged readings, and full productions. So yeah, I started out there pretty much as the literary manager / dramaturg, and then I took over the casting as well, and then I eventually became associate artistic director and also did some directing. Did a lot of directing of the staged readings, and I think I did 3 full productions. But it was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. We also developed a lot of musical talent in terms of acting talent, because we tended to use people, quite a bit over and over again.
I thank you. I was great. That was in the 90s, or we talked maybe mid 90s, early mid, about the time of what were we doing then, David? Where was that program? Oh, around this time. But I think, thank you. You gave me a lot of work, or at least some fun. So that
we were wonderful. I mean, it was just I mean, it was well worth it.
Yeah.
I did one reading there that I guess you were not involved with, Mark, but it was a show that I had done at the O'Neill. And then we did another, I guess it was one of those reading book and Till, it was called Till, about Till Eulenspiegel. And if you don't remember him, don't feel embarrassed. Google Till Eulenspiegel if you can possibly figure out how to spell it. But he was a Dutch. I guess it was sort of like a Pied Piper story, and I played his fat sidekick. So I wasn't exactly going to do this when it went beyond. I sang a song about fried dough. Yeah.
David, how you remember these things. This is fabulous.
I think it's those things you remember more than the big successes and the wonderful things. I should ask you, this is a question that I asked a few weeks ago, and it was, or last week with the Forbidden Broadway peeps. And I guess because they did Forbidden Broadway, there wasn't anything more embarrassing they could say. But is there anything you guys, especially Jonathan and Haley, that you've done on stage that you wouldn't have wanted your mother or your family to see? Anything that you're embarrassed at?
Ooh, that's a good one. Some come to mind that I can't tell you. You'll get kicked off Facebook.
Well, our coach is on the line already, but it's interesting because I think we're as performers we're asked to do things, take risks, and go out there on the diving board, and we generally do it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we do that. I can think of some bad shows I was in. I ran the Depot Theater up in upstate New York and was artistic directing. And then, as you would say, David, as you did at Surflight, they would throw me in as the lead of something. And there was one show called Saving Up for Saturday Night, and I played some sort of country redneck guy, just wrong casting. And I was terrible. And but the audience loved the show for some reason. It was a big hit. And at in that particular theater, there's a train. It's called the Depot Theater because a train comes by and you have to stop the show because it shakes the whole theater. And one day this train came through at a matinee. We were full of old folks seeing the show. And I just the show was not good. So I put my cowboy hat on and I ran up the aisle and I ran out the door. I'm going to catch this train. I'm going to get out of here. And I just left. And got a big applause, but it wasn't a great moment. So
I have a story that comes to mind, and it's actually from college. But I was playing Sally Bowles, and I was basically wearing nothing. I mean, a bra and garters and my grandpa was at the show, and it's kind of a sad story because he had heat stroke during the show and had to go to the hospital.
Yikes!
And I found this out at intermission, and so I went to the hospital with him, but I didn't realize I was still in my lingerie. Okay. So I walk into the hospital with my grandfather because it's college, I wasn't going to, they canceled it. It wasn't professional theater. I walk into the hospital I can't figure out why they're looking at me like I'm crazy. And cause I'm walking through the hospital with the Alan coming like dark makeup down my face and my boobs out like this and my garters up. Like I can't figure out. Completely forgot I was dressed. They could not figure out what was going on. So that's
fabulous. That's great.
Well, I hope you didn't go into the cardiac ward. I mean,
it was a heat stroke. So wherever they could not figure out what was going on. But that's just the first story that comes to mind. I mean, they just could not.
We had one, like, if you don't mind me piggybacking, we had one similar in Jersey Boys. I did Jersey Boys forever and ever and ever. And we were on tour in Philadelphia, and there's a scene where I shot this guy in the car, and fake blood comes out, and it's all on his shirt. Well, that actor that had the fake blood, he ran off stage and hit a wall and passed out.
Oh my God.
So they had to take him across the street. We stopped the show, had to take him across the street to the hospital. But when they opened up, he was still in his costume and he was covered in blood. So at the hospital, they was like, "What's going on over there?" They thought it was a massacre. And we're going, "No, it's just Jersey Boys." You know?
Jersey Boy.
Yeah.
Well, I had a mishap a couple of years ago. I was painting my kitchen and I slipped off a ladder. And I broke my toe, which I knew I had done immediately because, of course, why are you painting the kitchen barefoot to begin with? But and on a ladder that wasn't safe. But I sort of slid down the front of the oven and scraped all in front of me. So I had cuts and everything. And I eventually went to the NYU Langone because my doctor said, I think you should go down there and have it looked at, even though I woke up the next morning and finished painting the kitchen, even with all of that all over. And anyway, I went down there and they said, yes, you indeed do have a broken toe. How did this happen? And I said, how long does this take to heal? Because I was about to do another production of La Cage aux Folles, and I said, because I have to be in high heels in about 6 weeks. And they looked at me a little strangely, and they said, oh, well, it'll be okay, and we'll give you a tetanus shot for the cuts and everything. And I said, well, while I'm here, I've had this finger that's been bothering me. And I said, it's because about 4 weeks ago, I finished a job where I had to keep punching my hand through a wall. I was doing Laughter on the 23rd floor and playing Max, and I kept punching my finger or punching my hand through the drywall twice during the show. So that would have been 16 times a week. And it never felt right after that. So they said, okay, well, we can look at that too. And we can do an MRI. And finally, they got up the nerve to say, what is it that you do?
Yeah, they have.
You have to put on high heels in 6 weeks and that you punch your hand through a wall 16 times a week. And when I told them I was an actor, they said, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, I also have another question about whether you've seen anything from the stage that when you're up on the stage and you look out in the audience and see something unusual. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, something that was going on in the audience?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you don't mind me jumping in, one time, Jersey Boys, we were in Boston, maybe. And right as the second act starts, we hear this scuffle and something going on. A bunch of people got in a fight. Somebody insulted somebody's mother, somebody this, that, and they got up and they're punching each other in the aisle and the theater. And the ushers had to come down and pull out. It made the papers the next day. Big fight at Jersey Boys, all this. And we just kept going. But of course, your attention's like, what's happening out there? That just popped in my head. That was crazy.
We had something similar in Chicago recently because we have, stars in and out. And we had Erica Jane from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, who was great in the role and real class act, real team player. Really enjoyed her as Roxy, actually. But she had some fans, okay? And some people that came into that theater that probably have never been to the theater before. And there were a couple people in the front row one night that were just didn't know they were at the theater. They thought that they were, out to dinner. And every line, doesn't she look great? She looks great. Does she look great? She looks great. At one point, a shirt came off. A shirt definitely came off. Then the people behind them got angry and said, what the are you doing? What do you think I'm doing? I'm seeing Erica Jane. I mean, it just started escalating. And this is in the middle of like Roxy's monologue. And they're like, yeah, Erica, keep going. And she's trying to do this like monologue and she's a professional. So eventually, and we're trying to we're on the side of the stage and we're slowly sneaking off because we're supposed to be sitting in chairs. Like they're literally screaming during her monologue, why isn't anyone coming down and removing them? So eventually 4 minutes into the monologue, they grab these people kicking and screaming out of the theater.
Wow.
The whole way you could just hear them going. They were in the front row. I mean,
Oh gosh.
There were a couple things like that while she was in there. I mean, she had some amazing fans. I mean, she crowded the theater every single night, but there were some people that had never just didn't realize that there's a person up there that's like trying to act, and it's not a talk back.
There's times when you want to actually say, we can hear you.
Yes.
This is not television. We did a production of Man of La Mancha, one of the other ones that I keep doing everywhere, a few years back, and Tony was in it as well. And we had a couple in the front row who I guess were very drunk and maybe on their first date or their honeymoon, but the honeymoon festivities were happening right there in the front row.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Oh no! They really were trying to see whether we noticed, and there was no way we couldn't notice. Nobody behind them could notice, but everybody, yeah. And the usher finally had to tell them to leave and get a room or something like that. But I think they were doing it to entertain us. I also remember once at Westchester when we were doing La Cage. If you've ever been to Westchester Broadway Theater, they have these celebrity boxes where people have their dinner up there. And there's a screen that comes down so they can have their privacy while they're having dinner. And then the screen goes up while the show goes on. And they had a bachelorette party up there. And I guess they thought everybody on stage in La Cage aux Folles would not be interested anyway. So they were testing to see how much attention they could grab. And they were flashing us with their chests at us, all these ladies. And I don't care whether you're gay, straight, male, or female, when there's 16 pairs of hooters looking at you from the balcony, it's a little hard not to notice. So,
yeah.
And that is so not the demographic of Westchester. I mean, that store.
I know, but you have to be prepared for the unexpected. So,
wow.
Generally, it's used towards the older folk there. I mean, that's wow.
We had we had some instances, I would say, that what made me think of the other end of that, when something stops the show and it's in a good way, which just popped in my head. I was on the tour of The Bodyguard, the musical, just last couple years, and Deborah Cox was playing the lead. And do you know her from Jekyll and Hyde at all?
I was her dance captain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's just fantastic and a wonderful lady and such a great singer. And of course, that show brought in a lot of Whitney Houston fans as well as Deborah Cox fans. Sure. And we were in Philadelphia, and she gets to the end of the show and sings the big "I Will Always Love You" song, and kind of goes up on we called it the Elphaba elevator. It comes up and she's singing away. The audience stopped that song 12 times. We all stayed backstage and counted it. I've never seen anything like it. Literally stopped the song cold, and it was all love, and it was wonderful. But Deborah just kind of had to wait, and they'd scream, "Whitney, Deborah," whatever there was. And it was lovely, that was really fun way to stop.
You did that show a long time. You were out with that for a while.
2 years. I started Paper Mill, and then we're on the road about 2 years. Yeah. It was fascinating.
Seems like a good group on that too. I knew a lot of people on that tour. A nice group of people too.
Yeah, it was great. And I'll say again, just to you four here, because no one else is listening, not a great show, but because if you've seen the movie. It's not. I mean, the movie's great, but the story is pretty stupid. But it's people love it. There is a lot of intrigue. It's fun, and the music, you just can't beat that music. So that was a lot of fun. That was fun.
Great. Well, Mark, I have to ask this because changing the subject slightly. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and I looked at your Facebook page and I saw somebody posted that your favorite Dolly just passed away. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I feel like you and I are the only two people on the planet who would know who that was. And I mean, it reminded me because Deborah Cox and Real Housewives. I mean, we have so many celebrity cast casting examples now on Broadway, but here's a woman who spent her whole life in the theater, and
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether there were any other people that would even know who she was. Tell us who I'm talking
Well, that would
about.
be Annie Cordy you're talking about. Annie Cordy was she's kind of like the Anne Margaret of France. Although she was Belgian, but she did a lot of theater, and she did a lot of nightclubs. And I saw her in Hello, Dolly at the Strasbourg Opera House and I'm going to really date myself here, 1972. And she was just phenomenal. And it was an incredible production too. It was a very elaborate production. The last scene of the first act is before the parade passes by, and they had over 100 people on stage because they actually incorporated the Kronenburg marching band and the majorettes of Königshofen, which were two suburbs of Strasbourg, and it was just hysterical. And it was all in French too, so it was great. But yeah, she just died, 92 years old.
Yeah, and I because I collect all the cast recordings, I have the French language recording with her from, I don't know.
Oh, wow.
A million years ago. So yeah, I thought, oh boy, I have to ask Mark about that. And you actually saw that production. That's amazing.
I did. Yeah.
And was the whole thing in French? It was in French?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Bonjour,
the entire thing was
Dolly?
in French.
Wow.
They said hello, Dolly, but that's about the only English thing that they kept. But no, the entire production was in French. It was great.
Wow, never knew that. Wow, that's fabulous.
Well, Haley, that's a role that you still have in your future. You know, you will.
all those Jerry Herman, all of them, all those women, love them all.
Well, we recently watched your solo show from 54 Below virtually, and you were terrific.
Yeah, thank you.
You did all of the songs that are associated with somebody that you rather revere, Liza Minnelli. Tell us about that.
So I always kind of wait to create these cabaret shows until something comes to me or I have something new to say, or I don't do them all the time because I don't consider myself really a cabaret singer. I really like to create a piece of theater, something that's moving to me, something, because I really am an actress first. And coming off of the show that Jana I did, which was very much a piece of theater, was, to me, not just a night of Ken Reb songs. It was something we created a story and something that I felt was moving. And another director I work with is Wilman Ziada. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's amazing. He and his brother are twins. They were started as performers and played Carnegie Hall with the Calloway sisters. They're amazing, and he has branched out into directing, and he's directed Lilias White and Katie Huffman and a bunch of solo shows, and is very in theater, involved in theater directing now. But he came to me with this concept, and Liza gave me permission to do it, and her blessing. And what I did was I took her songs, and I didn't really do them her way, and I took some stuff you knew, some stuff you didn't. I did the debutante ball. I mean, people probably don't know that song. No. And and various things. And I created an evening of theater that I felt told a story. And it really was more like a one-woman show that people would go and see. Like a la, I'm not comparing myself to Elaine Stritch because she's a goddess, but that more style of that than the style of, I'm going to go sing you some songs tonight. I don't, to me, when I do it, it's more that style of telling a story. And I tried to craft an evening that did that. And to me, it was my mom's was turning 60, and Judy Garland, Liza Minnelli, I love how Liza came from a famous family and created her own way. I also come from a famous family. My grandfather was George Steinbrenner, who owned the New York Yankees.
What?
Yeah, so I don't talk about it a lot. I've created my own pathway.
Love that.
But that show to me was, here is this woman who has created her own pathway in her own music and her own canon. And it was a kind of an homage to this mother-daughter. My mom was turning 60, and to the canon of Liza's music, because Liza has created her own pathway, as has Lorna. And I admire those women immensely because of that, because I have that connection. I come from this magnanimous family that's kind of over here. And I'm like, well, that's great. Baseball's great. I love baseball, but I'm gonna go audition. See you later.
Yes.
You certainly did it. You really did. You encompassed all of that.
And for me, a lot of what's in that show through that music is kind of telling that story.
Is it still available online? Because
it streams for free on Broadway On Demand. I gave it to Broadway On Demand.
Great.
Very joyful, happy show for people to see right now. So I gave that show to them. I had it professionally done by a videographer, and I gave it that night. It was a benefit for the Actors Fund where people could donate or not donate, and it raised some money, which was great. And now it's just streaming, so people can watch it on there. And Will and I crafted it together. Will's a genius, and we did it together, and I'm proud of it.
Can I ask a question, David?
You get the stamp of approval from Beyond the Green Room. We endorse watching this show. Yes, absolutely.
I was just curious, Haley, do you have a favorite Liza song that in all your research and putting the show together? Is there anyone that you enjoy performing? I'm so curious about.
It really changes all the time for me. I mean, some of her. I love her Colored Lights. But I love doing it my way. I love the song Colored Lights that she sang from The Rink. I do my own version of it, but I love the story that it tells because it's very, very personal for me, where I come from. For a long time, I tried to shy away from I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to do it on my own, and I never told the family that I was from. But now that I've made it on my own, I'm actually very proud that I'm from that family, and I don't really. I've kind of integrated and embraced those two things. So for me,
good for you.
That song is very, very powerful, and kind of. So to me, that's really the song that probably speaks the most to me right now. But there's a million things. For example, she sings "Losing My Mind" in the disco medley. I
love that.
I mean, I did not do that because nobody can do that like Liza. I'm not even going to try and touch that. I sing "Losing My Mind" very, traditionally in the show because there's nobody that can sing "Losing My Mind" in the disco medley like Liza Minnelli, and nobody's So, but watch it. It's fun. It's on Broadway On Demand. It's free to have an account there, and it streams.
Well, we're coming up on what is going to be our little intermission. Right before I take the intermission, we usually ask a quiz question. And we open it up to any of our viewers. And if they don't get the answer, if nobody gets the answer, I'll ask you guys if you have an idea of what the answer might be. And if all else fails, I'll just tell you. But this ties in with what I was saying before. Jonathan, you and I did a tribute to Theo Bickel. So Theo Bickel starred in 3 Broadway musicals. What were they? And it's kind of a trick question, so don't answer quickly. Now we will give you the answer, or we'll see if anybody guesses the answer at the end of the intermission. But we're going to take about a 3-minute break, and during this break, we're going to show some footage of a collaboration that I worked with Mark Herko on. It is a clip, indeed, from The Merry Widow that we did at Seaside Music Theater. It's ancient history. And so, I have to say, this was a very proud moment, I think, for both of us, because I will tell you, we were working with a conductor who was also the artistic director of the theater, and everybody had to obey the conductor and watch the conductor constantly. And I was trying to approach this as a play, and the Merry Widow Waltz is something that's sort of repeated twice in the score, but the last line of the refrain is "and I love you." And I didn't want to say that the first time around because I thought, why do we need the second verse? This guy can't say "I love you" to his leading lady. So I said, well, I'm not going to say it. And the conductor said, "Oh, you can't do that." And Mark said, no, let him do it this way. And we got away with it, Mark. And I was very proud that it was in the context of the play. So this is ancient history. Here's a scene from The Merry Widow at Seaside Music Theater. And when we come back, we'll answer the quiz question. So go fill your glasses, or take a potty break or whatever, or just watch the clip, okay? We'll see you in a few minutes.
situation. I merely switched places with her at the last minute, and that's that.
That's that. After I went through the sheer rage and agony of the
Camille, why can't you open your mouth and say you love me? Tell me why you went through sheer rage and agony. For love of me or love of the Father?
You know the truth, don't you? Oh, why can't they simply say it? Love, unspoken faith, unbroken, all life through. Strings are playing, hear them saying, love me too. Now the echo answers, say you want me to. All the world's in love with love and love.
It carries me away. All sorrow will be gone when you are mine and mine alone. So that music seems to say, but still not saying anything. It's wanting you to know I love you so.
Now the echo answers, say you want me to. All the world's in love with love.
Ah, yes. Well,
Wow.
Oh,
ancient history.
that was wonderful, David. But,
Suntan I was, and now blonde.
but David, which one was Theodore Bickel? I got confused. But anyway, sorry.
Jonathan, did you go back for another Bloody Mary, or?
No, I'm just staying with the one. We're good for now. That was wonderful, you guys. Good work.
Well, it was nice to revisit that. Seems like a million years ago. But it was a pleasure working with a director who understood the actor's process, and that we could take an old operetta and make it a modern music drama, if you will.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the original German, translations, there's hardly a book at all. I mean, the original German, there's hardly a book. I mean, I did read the original German, and so you could do pretty much whatever you want to with it.
Well, and we did, but I think we pulled it off. So I remember also that you that was the lovely Susan Russell singing with me, who was in Phantom for a very long time on Broadway, and now I think she's full-time teaching voice in Pennsylvania. So, but we had a lovely chemistry, and I was very grateful to have her as my vis-a-vis too. So anyway, let's look at the quiz question. Did anybody guess the quiz question? I'm looking at the feed here. Okay, DG Brandamore, who always gets the quiz question right, is absolutely 1/3 right and
Oh,
2/3 wrong.
that was my answers.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
No,
what I was going to.
no,
Oh,
he did
well,
Fiddler on the Roof everywhere but on Broadway. And he did the national tour of the Rothschilds, but not on Broadway.
Yeah.
He
Right.
did 2 other shows that I think their combined runs was no longer than a week.
Oh.
One, one
Jesus.
was Poots Cafe, and the other was Cafe Crown. So if I were him, I would say stay away from anything that has the word cafe in it. But Pooh's Cafe was based on an old German film that Marlene Dietrich was in, and his co-star was Lilo, who was the star of Can Can. And it lasted, I think, less than a week. And Cafe Crown was based on a Yiddish theater play that was a big hit, I guess, as a straight play, but not so much as a musical. And Pooh's Cafe actually had music written by none other than Duke Ellington. So that's a little bit for your quiz. I'm sorry, DG, you got it wrong for once, but I'm glad you've been watching.
That was a good one, though. That was hard. That's fascinating, though. Thank you, David.
You know, in honor of somebody knowing who Annie Cordy is on this program, we had to do something that was just a little bit more obscure. So now is the time of the program when I just part of the reason for our doing this program is to keep the ghost light burning for those of you who are watching for the first time. I always explain the ghost light is the light that we leave burning on the stage of the theater. It's usually in a bare bulb and maybe a little cage, so that to keep the ghosts away and to always keep the light on for the future of theater. We're very superstitious. And of course, we are all in the virtual green room right now, waiting to go back on stage. But
it's so poetic. I love that, David.
Oh, well, don't cry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm all right. Starbucks napkins, but anyway.
You know, it's usually a scary question when anybody asks me, what are you doing next? Because if we don't have 14 things lined up, we always get nervous about it. And when this episode began, I had a lovely series of jobs lined up, and they all fell like a house of cards. We have every wish and belief that we will come back stronger than ever, and perhaps even reinvent theater in a way that gets back to basics. I really do think that. Is there something that you're working on in seclusion now that you are going to bring back when all of this is in the rearview mirror, so to speak? I know, Mark, you've been working from home, but you're actually when we were talking last night, I thought you were actually very calmly and blissfully semi-retired and not worrying about the rat race that we call getting ahead in this business. So that's
not by choice, though. But not by choice.
Well, you should be working on something, you know, creative, because you have that talent and you have that mind, and so
thank you.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you know,
well, I will say you guys are bringing me good luck, because literally in that intermission, I got a callback, a virtual, my first Zoom callback.
No.
Yeah, for a play this coming week. They're like, "Are you free Wednesday at 3?" I'm like,
Good luck.
"Yes."
That's great.
So that little things are starting to happen. Plus, I was doing a play last Christmas. More visual aids. This was I didn't plan this. The Great Divorce.
Oh yes, I remember you doing that. C.S. Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, and we ran off-Broadway in December. Haley, I had just come back from North Shore doing The Bodyguard again.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we need to talk about North Shore. That's so great up there.
People.
Great people. But we did The Great Divorce off-Broadway, and then we took it on the road, and we were in Houston when everything shut down. But I just got word this week that they want to try to do a streaming version
cool.
because all our gigs, of course, are canceled, but they're postponing them to next year, which I feel very lucky about. That this show, we could go back on the road with it at some point. So they want to hire us for 3 weeks and pay money towards our insurance. Thank you. And then do some sort of filming of it where we'll be in our own, there are 4 actors, we'll be in our own little pod with a green screen.
Wow.
And the show has a lot of projections as we do it on the road. So they'll do the green screen. We'll have our own little camera. So we won't be acting together. We'll be socially distanced. And the way the show is actually structured, it's a lot of 2 and 3 people scenes. We don't really have a lot of physical contact. So that works. So we'll see what happens. So thank you guys for bringing it up to me.
If they need an understudy for Jonathan Hadley.
Right. Give me your number, darling. Give me your phone number. I'll let them. Yeah.
I think it's certainly very uncharted and crazy times. I mean, for me,
Definitely.
I've been trying to find ways to find other ways of doing this. I've been working on things to do virtually. I've been teaching a little bit, which I've been enjoying. Mentoring kids. I'm about to sign up for another program where I'm gonna hopefully go into some of the schools virtually and work with underprivileged kids and just kind of give some master classes and work with them, which will be really fulfilling and wonderful. I've always loved teaching. I'm working on producing. I'm in the process. Jana and I are in the process of negotiating for the rights for a TBA Broadway revival, but I can't talk about it yet. But when
so close.
I just can't, but I will, and you'll be the first to know when we've figured it all out. But,
Was Theodore Bickel in it? But anyway.
No.
It's not Pooh's Cafe or
damn it.
Brown. No,
it's not. And it's now that you're talking about the one with the guy who eats the peeps, that's sounding more interesting. I think we need to look back on that one.
Okay.
Well, I should tell our audience that the man who directed that, Kevin Connors, has his theater in Connecticut. Music Theater of Connecticut, and they are one of the first theaters in the area to come back. They're doing actually just a 1-person play right now, fully committed. They have a postage stamp size stage to begin with, and they're only doing 25% capacity, but they are also selling tickets virtually, and they have 1 actor on stage. So things are happening a little bit right now, and it's good to hear that these theaters are determined. I feel like we went through a phase where, this won't last very long when it happened, maybe a couple of months, and then there was despair, and now there is a new spirit of determination. I feel like a lot of these theaters say, all right, well, we have to do something because we don't know how long it's going to be, and we have to make theater anyway. And I really think that when we do come back full swing, people will be so hungry for it. And even though this is great what we're doing right now, there's nothing quite like being in the room with live actors. And I think instead of trying to compete with huge scenic effects and trying to replicate everything that the way they do in the movies or on television, we're going to get back to what the essence of live theater is.
Yes.
And I'm glad to hear you're teaching, Haley. You should be. I was proud to say I was your coach on a couple of occasions.
Still my coach. You're still gonna be my coach. I just have
I'm actually coaching a few people right now too, and it's mentoring is a huge part of what we do, because we have to even under normal times, we have to ensure there's a new generation who loves what we do and loves it the way we do. I mean,
that's what I've always said, David, and that's what I admire about you. I've always said, like, the true definition of a star and someone who's made an impact in this legacy and in a legacy is how they treat the people who are who are younger than them, and how they impart their knowledge on the people that can give them nothing, that are in the wings just wanting to learn. And from the time when I was just a young person who knew nothing and had nothing, you were always like that to me, and I still look at you wide-eyed whenever I read a scene with you. I think you're a genius.
Honey, that's so sweet. And you know what? I have to look at young people because most of them are younger than me now. So
happens.
I'm talking to me. I mean, there's a generation that are, I'm 20 years younger than kids that are coming in now, and now I'm remembering that as there are people that are looking at me like that too, or aren't. But I'm trying to give that back too, because I learned that from, I learned that from you and other people. I just think that's so important, and how we impart, especially right now when kids don't have an outlet. They don't have an outlet. They don't have the ability to go on stage in their high school productions. And now that we have this virtual world, I'm just trying to find ways to be able to know that they're heard, whether it's commenting on some young kid posting an Instagram video because I happen to be verified or whatever that means. Who cares? And they know that I'm on Broadway but I've said, amazing job, just to be able for that kid to know that somebody heard them, to me, is important. So I'm spending time trying to do that, I guess.
And there are a lot, that generation, they are passionate. These kids love it. Whether they came from Glee or where that came, in the next generation, it's very exciting to talk to them. There's a lot of hope out there in those youngins, David. They're hopeful kids.
They're
it's
amazing.
great.
Yeah. I just met this person who is in high school. They couldn't return to high school. They're 16 years old. They created a virtual script reading of a movie on their own movie.
Love
on
it.
Instagram, and raised $2,000 for the Actors Fund. They're 16 years old.
What?
I gave them a free master class, but they're 16 years old. They raised $2,000. I mean, that inspires me. I mean, I'm learning. I'm speaking to them, but I'm learning from them. They're not learning from me. I'm learning from them.
Yeah, we need some virtual tips. Like, where's the button on this thing? All that.
Yeah, I'd love to interject too at this time that Tony Javid, who is my husband and the producer of this show, has been working in this format for months, even before we started, with Piano Bar Live, which is a way to. And Haley, you've done a guest shot on Piano Bar Live.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
music is particularly challenging if you are used to working with an accompanist who's in the same room. So we have to sing with tracks, or it has to be somebody who can accompany themselves. But they do a virtual cabaret every Tuesday night on Facebook, Piano Bar Live. And through this platform, they've started to work on other projects too. There may be a virtual off-Broadway show being done. There's a virtual gala. And so we're very lucky to have Tony being able to do the technical stuff for us, and very grateful to Piano Bar Live for forging the way forward. The producer is Scott Barberino, and the associate producer is Tony Javid. They won a MAC award last year for Show of the Year. And they couldn't even accept their award in person because of the pandemic. But this is the determination of the people in the cabaret world to continue to do this kind of work has inspired this show and many others. And
they were like one of the first ones to do this too.
Yes, yeah, they were.
And you know who else is killing it? The drag queens. My friends who are Cacophony Daniels Tuesday night, Evita Loca Wednesday night, Sutton Lee Seymour they got their show, they have it all set up, and they sing and they make that. It's amazing. So, and you can tip them, they tell you how to tip along the bottom of the screen. They've got it set up. They're working it. It's great.
Well, maybe the next show that we all do together, we should wear drag.
We should all be in drag, all four of us.
Mm. I could do like a Marlene Dietrich in a tuxedo, like suit.
Yes.
That'd be good.
A theme
long
show.
cigarette.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
That's funny.
Well, I can't thank you enough. 3 old friends. I feel like I've spent an afternoon with you in person, and this has been wonderful. And I feel like if you hadn't met before, now you have. Now you have.
Absolutely, this is great. And you said this would fly by. I didn't believe you. It's flown by. I'm
I had a guest a few weeks ago who, when he agreed to do it, he said, "Well, I want to do it, but maybe 15 minutes,
Yeah.
an hour and a half. Are you kidding? And the first thing he said afterwards, "Thank you so much," and it flew by.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because we have nothing else to do, but I know that's not true because you're all busy. Haley, I should mention that you're the mom of a young daughter, and that's a full-time job.
Wow.
So I don't know how you do it,
Nope.
and still manage to look so glamorous.
Oh, that was because I was putting on makeup during sound check. That's all.
Guys, take a lesson. Let's put on makeup during the sound check next time.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well,
I love you, David.
I also you brought up the subject that we don't have a virtual tip cup here. Of course, I don't know what we'll do in the future if the lights don't stay on, but right now I invite people instead to think of donating to the Actors Fund if they've got a spare shekel, because they help all of us who are struggling artists right now. And it doesn't matter whether you're a big star or you're just starting out. Anybody that works in the theater knows it can change like that
overnight, kids.
I got the reputation of closing theaters. So, I mean, the show we first met with Jonathan, that closed in 2 weeks because I joined the cast, I think.
Thanks, David. We'd still be running, David. There'd be a piece for everybody.
Listen, this is the man who closed the Fantastics. I mean,
right.
So, and that's not an easy feat. It did come back, and then I didn't go back in, so it didn't close again because of me, thank God. But
well, I did get my call back, so you did bring me some good luck. So
I'm very happy. I'm still checking my phone, but for some reason they didn't call me. I don't know.
David. Oh, no service, David. No service.
Well, thank you all again for joining me this afternoon. I want to announce my guests for next week. We have the casting director, the wonderful Holly Busek, joining me, and Kurt Stam, who is the artistic director of Saugatuck Center for the Arts, and a wonderful actress and singer and dear friend of mine, Gina Milo, will be joining us next week. Everybody loves Gina, right? Huh? Okay, so next week on Beyond the Green Room, those are our guests. And our playoff tonight is something rather special. I've been saving it for the end because this is Haley times 2 doing an amazing rendition of the famous Judy Garland and Barbra Streisand duet.
Oh, yay! I need a cocktail.
Black and white, that's the way they did it. And it's Haley doing both parts. And this was a benefit for Sharon Playhouse. Alan Wager and Robert Levenstein are old friends of mine, and they run the Sharon Playhouse. And so this was a fundraiser for them. I know you did your show up there with Jana. So think of helping them out, and I hope to have the two of them on this show very soon. So enjoy this wonderful, I can't say it's a throwback because it's brand new to all of us, but it certainly is reminiscent of this great television moment. Here's another great television moment with Haley Swindal.
Okay.